Hello, everyone. I'm Denny Miller, and welcome to Indy 500 Yesteryear and Today with Speedway Insiders Paul Page.
Hello.
And Bob Gates.
Hi.
And this is going to be one jam-packed show today. I think it's going to be fantastic. Bob's going to comment a little bit on what's behind him, which I thought was just spectacularly done by Doug Bowles, where he brought back the winners from the Indy 500 and the Brickyard 400, and then had them all stand by the yard of bricks. And AJ was healthy enough to come, Mario, and all those super legends. I'm glad they did it, and hopefully it becomes an annual tradition. And as always, we dedicate this show to the memory of Robin Miller. And by the way, this being what they call crossover weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with the doubleheader of IndyCar and NASCAR, they did one of their reporters from NASCAR went to Working Man's and told about the Robin Miller burger and everything like that. So I was really glad that Robin got added exposure off of that.
I figure he gets free burgers there forever now, forever.
We ought to. You don't think we've talked about this 2 or 3 times? I'm going to try pushing for that, at least as infrequently as I'm there from Redondo. You know, you think I should get free burgers? And I won't ask them for onion rings because I don't like onions, but everything. But I'm glad they kept Robin's memory alive, and that's what one of our goals with this show is to keep it alive. Hey,
back in the day, though, if I had done that, standards and practices would have been all over me because I profited from a mention kind of thing.
Right.
So
Yep.
he probably isn't going to get the burgers. Who knows?
So
I don't care.
but today, this is August 1 as we record this, and this is free agents day for Rinus VeeKay. And already he is becoming a hot commodity. You see him re-signing with Ed Carpenter Racing, or is the Alex Palou situation going to have him kind of take the position at Ganassi, or do you see him being with Andretti as DeFrancesco's replacement? I think he becomes a very hot commodity now. What's you guys take on it? Paul? Or Bob?
Just my opinion. I mean, I would, no insider information or anything, but I would not be surprised to see him end up in Palou's seat with Ganassi. He seems like almost a perfect fit there. The same temperament as Scott Dixon, to be quite honest. And it seems like the same ability to make things happen, no matter where he might start in a race. But I haven't heard anything specific about that, and I don't know if Paul has or not.
Well, no, but the implication there is that Ganassi will not win his suit.
Yeah.
And Palou would stay.
Right.
Now, I don't quite see it going that way. I see a lot of negotiation coming up, but I'm not sure that's a seat that is open right now.
No, it's not.
So, but he's good. He really is good. And he's a great interviewer. He's a nice human being. His father is always there. In fact, we text back and forth during the races. I'd like to see him with a good seat where he can really perform. Not that he isn't there at Carpenter, but
Right.
And I don't know what's happening at Andretti at all.
If he were to leave Carpenter, I think that strengthens Connor Daly's role at Carpenter Racing as their number 1 driver. But
right.
who would be on the short list you see for the second ride?
If we do the silly season like this, we're going to need 4 or 5 shows.
Well,
I don't really know. I kind of lose track of all the machinations and everything. We hear all these rumors and try to put them all into a fact.
That's what makes it so exciting, though. That's one of the things. And it was kind of calm there after Rossi initially left. Before the Alex Palou thing came up. But we will be talking about fact, let's jump ahead to that right now. And the Chip Ganassi lawsuit against Alex Palou to honor the contract for 2023. What are you hearing about that, Paul?
Well, I think Ganassi probably has a very, very strong case. I hate it when we are implying that Palou actually deliberately did something wrong. I know how agents and management people work, and I could see them saying, "Here, sign this. You're going to get you more money and everything." And he assumed that that was a right and legal process. So I don't pin it on him much at all. I really think they've worked so well together at Ganassi. I think Ganassi would like to keep him if this all irons out right.
Bob, your take on it?
Well, I agree. I don't think Palou pulled the trigger to make all this mess happen. For one thing, he just seems like too good of a kid to do that.
Yeah.
And too intelligent to do that. I think he got some misinformation from somebody, his manager, his law, whatever position they might hold in his hierarchy. He's got some bad information along the way. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes down. He still insists that he has a good relationship with, at least with his immediate crew and team, and they performed pretty well over the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He says he has not spoken to Chip Ganassi since the lawsuit was filed, which might be expected, I suppose. But I don't know how often they spoke in a particular racing weekend anyway. It wouldn't be unusual for them not to have a lot of conversations. Everything's handled between the drivers and their engineers and those types of things. The name, as far as filling seats, the name I keep hearing everywhere for everything is Ryan Hunter-Reay. I've heard, well, he might take Kirkwood's place at Foyt, and at Ed Carpenter, and Ganassi had him signed, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a backup for Palou in case that deal, he still has him signed as a backup driver in case the Palou deal all falls apart. So it's certainly interesting. Let's put it that way.
Well, they certainly need the former Indy 500 winner in the field. I think it's not good signal you send when you don't have someone as good as Ryan Hunter-Reay who wants to run, doesn't have a ride to run. And this obviously, I think, is the strongest collection or field that IndyCar has probably ever put together, but Ryan Hunter-Reay would even make it stronger. Another intriguing character, if you would like to use that word character, really benefited with the injury to Mr. Newgargen when Santino Ferrucci was pinned as the replacement for him. And I heard him say that's the best thing that happened to his career, just to be associated with Penske. So I think that puts Ferrucci up in a more in-demand position now because of that. And he's the kind of character, I think, that adds a little glitterness to the IndyCar series as well.
Should he want to stay with Team Penske? I think he's going to have to get a Team Penske haircut.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a great compliment. That's a normal.
I don't know. Penske, I don't think would add a fourth car anymore to have him, but I think he becomes a much viable choice for Ed Carpenter if VK leaves, or if Andretti chooses to put a replacement in for DeFrancesco. And we're going to get to a little later in the show about Connor Daly's comments about DeFrancesco and his
well, it's things today as far as drivers picking drivers, it's much more complicated. Ferrucci could fit in a lot of different spots, but I'm not saying they needs to bring money, but there needs to be some sponsorship involvement. That's very critical to all the teams, to keep the teams going today. So it's much more complicated than it used to be, where you just go down the list and pick the best driver out of that list of guys available.
Yeah, that's the sad thing about it, Bob,
Yeah.
is that that's no longer your skill alone. Can I get a $2 million out of you in sponsorship and that kind of thing? It's just, that's a little crazy, but
Yeah.
there it is.
Yes, that's the way it is.
We'll keep everyone atop of what's happening in the next few weeks as it really gets interesting. What would have been the lead?
Yeah. What about Will Power though? I mean, he just jumped back up in the points.
Yeah.
And he's beginning to look more like he's enjoying it a lot this year. So that's good too. I think he's performing very well.
Somebody asked me over the weekend how my interaction with Will Power was, and I really never had a lot of deep interaction with Will Power, but their comment came because he seems to everyone to be much more mellow this year than he had been in the past. Not so intense and not so jumpy, if you want to use that word. Just more relaxed, more mellowed out, and like you said, Paul, seemed to be enjoying it more.
Yeah, and I like that.
Intense and jumpy with a black belt is a dangerous combination to have. Or you got to approach him trepidly or something.
Right.
And we will be talking about the new point leader as we get on the show. But what would have been the lead is the announcement from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway that in September of 2023, the IMSA Weather Tech series will be coming to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as a standalone event. And I'm going to get both of your guys' take of that new announcement. Bob, you want to first comment on that?
Well, it's one that's been awaited for a while. I think it's another indicator of the direction that Roger Penske is going with the Speedway. And as he said, when he purchased the Speedway a few years ago, COVID's kind of intervened and slowing things down a bit, but he wants to use the track more and to have events there. Paul can probably comment on sports car racing in general better than I can, but I do know IMSA is one of the more popular forms of sports car racing. I think they have fan wise, they draw quite a few people to the track. So it looks like a good move all the way around.
Yeah, my good friend Greg Kramer keeps me in touch with what IMSA is doing in the background. I love watching their races. The only thing with the Speedway is I'm wondering if this suggests that we may have lights there at some time, so they could do a 24, or would they even need them? I don't know what the lumen requirement is on the track surface, but then we can run the Indy 500 in prime time.
No, let's not think about
I hope that. Oh, by the way, mentioning that, we got a comment about, and I was going to write it down. Let's see, about a person who suggested that there could be drone type balloons released and they return to the track. And I can't find it now, but we'll bring it up. I thought that was really neat.
I like that. I hadn't heard that.
I do. We're going to get those balloons back yet, whether it's a church charity function or.
So are you saying that the balloon, the drone would then carry the balloon?
Or a drone type of mechanism with the balloon that sends.
So it returns to the Speedway. Let's go with that. I mean, it looked great at the Olympics and everything, what they do with drones.
So, but I definitely hope they keep the flyover where they fan out too. That was really fantastic as well.
Yeah.
It would be neat. I don't know if it, with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway being the 800-pound gorilla of all racetracks, I think they seriously have to consider it a 24-hour event equal to Le Mans. It just can't be a 12-hour, 8-hour or something. And it can Tipico ahead. And I also see this as a way of very great IndyCar drivers having a future place to go after they quit driving IndyCars as well. You know, the Castronevas and the Montoyas and the Canons and Hunter Rays and stuff like that. If they have names like that sprinkled in with their field, that's going to help their draw, particularly in Indianapolis.
Definitely.
So welcome IMSA to the Speedway as your own event. And a couple of other things. Four-time Formula One champion Sebastian Vettel announced that his retirement from Formula One. He made some interesting social comments. One of the reasons why he wants to leave. But do you see he being another Emerson Fittipaldi type personality and will eventually come and try Indy or try the entire IndyCar circuit? It'd be great to have a four-time world driving champion at Indy or in the entire series. Paul, what do you think?
Well, I think a lot of them, as has happened in the past with like Clark, a lot of them, and certainly Emmo, feel that the Indy 500 win would round out their portfolio at the pinnacle. And so I could see him doing that. He obviously still enjoys driving. So I think that's a possibility. Maybe he sets back a little bit and contemplates, but yeah, that might be cool.
Or
helped out Alonso, didn't it?
Yeah, or you can start the rumor that Vettel to Ganassi or something.
No.
No, but
Bob Gates
that
and I-
would be if they could bring Jimmy Johnson in, they could bring Sebastian Vettel in.
Maybe Zach Brown will offer him a ride at McLaren with the holding the carrot of a Formula One ride out in front of him.
I think if Vettel's available, that Bob, you and I ought to start a team and hire him. That can't be very expensive, can it?
As soon as I win the lottery, we'll think about that.
Yeah, exactly. Lost out last weekend.
Yeah.
So, but his replacement at Aston Martin is a blow to Indy because it was just announced that Fernando Alonso signed a multi-year deal with them, and like he was with Alpine, was not allowed to run Indy. I would imagine he will not be allowed to run Indy with Aston Martin. So that puts a hold on his plan to win at Monte Carlo and win at Le Mans and win at Indy. But I hope Alonso does come back to the Speedway, and Castronevas certainly prove that you can win in your later 40s in an IndyCar these days. Do you see Alonso ever coming back, Bob, with this new deal?
I know among all the Formula One drivers, he's the one most likely to come back because he's experienced it and enjoyed it, and wants to put that, he'd want to put a 500 win in his resume. So yeah, I don't know what kind of contract he has with Aston Martin or how long it is, but he'd certainly come back after he stopped running Formula One. Unless that's 10 years from now.
Yeah.
I
can't
have
imagine.
to reconsider at that point. But
we've got to convince Formula One to clean the date that the Indy 500 is running on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that would do a lot of things, including letting me finally go to Monte Carlo to see that race. No ego there, just
But I'd love to do that.
And if anyone can pull it off, Penske can do it.
Yeah.
The bridge he is doing now with NASCAR and IndyCar is really into the McCoy-Hatfield rivalry to a certain degree. As what you see in your background there, Bob, and we're going to be commenting on it soon. We do want to mention another deal. Callum Ilott signed a multi-year deal.
That's good.
With Huco's Hollinger Racing. His stock really rose this season. I think he was certainly on a short list. That must have been an ironclad contract that he learned his lesson from Palou or something. Hooray for Ricardo, and he said one time he'd appear on our show, so we look forward to having him on.
Yeah, let's hope
one
for
time.
that.
And
We have not touched on the guy with like the worst luck in IndyCar right now, which was Colton Herta.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you know, he had that thing totally handled up,
Yeah.
and I don't know what happened. I know what TV called it as, and they had the visuals. He hit that curb, and you could see it bounce pretty hard on it, and then everything started going away. So got to quit hitting curbs, maybe.
Yeah, he's one that just does not seem that, maybe he's inheriting that Andretti luck, you know, especially around the speedway. But yeah, he had the race, he had them all covered in that.
He really did.
His teammate Rossi, who ended up winning, of course, was probably the one that could have challenged him, but I don't think Rossi had enough to pass him on the track.
No one, if Herta doesn't have problems, he wins as convincingly as he did in May, or probably even more so. Incredible talent. You know, again, we keep talking about the foursome of Palou, VK, Herta, and I forget who the fourth one is. Help me out on that.
There's a couple of Erickson being one, the 500 winner.
But it's just such a good young group of drivers now. The four, and we're going to be talking about the one that was most impressive in a little bit. But I'm glad to see Ricardo get Ilott back. Newgarden was in doubt when we had our last show. He cleared all the protocol of a concussion, and he was able to drive. Would have been really disaster on his title hunt had he not been able to compete on that. We're glad it did not turn in. It's kind of a scary, like we talked about last week. It could have been almost had that Mark Donahue feel to it and everything, and collapsing. So we're glad that didn't happen. Well,
no, not that I'm a conspiracy guy, but all of us in the media that I'm aware of have dealt with the concussion possibility. And I've been thinking, and I'm going to ask the question, could there have been something other than a concussion that was the issue in his problems at Iowa? 2 races on very hot days, hydration problems, how's your blood chemistry doing? It could have easily been something else, but you know, the HIPAA being what it is, I don't think we'll ever find out, and I don't really think it's any of our business. But
well, speaking of other causes, didn't Allmendinger pass out after the Brickyard this year?
Yes, he did.
2 races in a row on hot days.
Yep.
Kind of the same. He didn't hit his head. And very well, Paul.
His cool suit failed, apparently.
Right.
And his drinking mechanism also did not work. So how hot was it in Indy this weekend?
It wasn't
bad.
The best.
Warm.
It was the best Brickyard 400 weekend weather-wise in a long time.
I mean, it wasn't near as hot as it was at Iowa last Saturday.
No.
They weren't talking weather
at
all on the TV and everything. Well, we're going to more talk about on this crossover weekend, something that I really thought, and a big salute to Doug Bulls for doing it. What you see in your background there, Bob, where the Speedway brought in the former winners of the Indy 500 and the Brickyard 400. And you see some of them in the back. Move your head just a little bit.
I don't know which way to go.
There we go. We see who in the dead center there is Mr. Foyt, and then Mario next to him. And
Jeff Gordon's there.
Mm-hmm. And that's Casper Neves. It looks as if. But that other picture that was really fantastic was when Dale Jarrett, the person who started the kissing of the bricks in the first place, and Mario, who never got to do that. So Andretti and Jarrett were recorded kissing the bricks, and I think Mario kind of, like he didn't like to eat that well or something, but it was cute. And that was really great. Who did not show up? This is an important question, is who did too. Who do you see not there, Bob?
Well, actually, as far as 500 winners, quite a few. I mean, Sneva, Al Jr. wasn't there. Sullivan, gosh, who else? Montoya. I don't see Montoya in the shot. The fair, I mean, we could just, go on and on. I thought one thing that was interesting, not a 500 winner, but a Brickyard winner, Tony Stewart, was not there to be in the photo. And I'm not sure that he was there the entire weekend unless he showed up yesterday. I didn't see him anywhere or see him on any telecast. I don't know what he was doing, probably drag racing, supporting his new wife.
Could well be.
Yeah. But I thought that was, it was just a great thing. We mentioned Robin Miller at the beginning of the show, and this is something that Robin would really have loved to have seen and enjoyed, and just high marks, from everyone about it, including the drivers themselves, how much of an honor it was, and how much they just, some of them didn't feel like they belonged with Foyt or Rick Mears or, some of the 500 winners, but it just says a lot about the status of the Speedway itself. It's still, we call it the greatest racetrack in the world, and we do that for a reason. This is one of them.
Well, Paul, your broadcast partner, Bobby Unser, would he have kind of muscled Foyt out of the center of the photo? Had he still been here with us?
Why do you keep hanging me with all these Bobby Unser questions? Of course he would. Not even worth asking. He would. There'd be a little shoving going on, I think.
But doesn't black give a good thinning effect within photos when you're all in black?
I ain't touching that.
You're not touching. But it's the Oscars do that, where they photo former winners, and I'm glad. I hope that becomes an annual tradition. I wish at a certain anniversary that almost becomes mandatory or they go to extremes to get every former winner there. That would be special. Well, qualifying for the IndyCar race was a kind of a surprise in that Felix Rosenqvist sat on the pole, and it certainly didn't hurt his stock with McLaren, but kind of disappointingly faded to I think ninth place finish or something like that in the race. But it was nice to see him. Rossi sat on the outside of the front row. Award was third. Power fourth. Newgarden rebounded with his injury fifth. And the surprise was the guy that made the Fast Six, Christian Lundgaard, and he had an even better race. And we will get to that in a second. A couple of things that highlighted the pool day was points leader Marcus Ericsson. Apparently, they just shut off the engine based on what they were seeing on the computer.
That seemed to be it.
He didn't even get to go out and complete one lap, and because of that, I guess the IndyCar rule is he has to start last, which really penalized the point leader. He
ended up gaining 14 spots in the race. And I'm not sure exactly how each position pays point wise. He did lose the point lead, but he's still right there. Even with what you might consider not such a great weekend. He did manage 11th.
And the other big surprise, and was the testiness, the most testy I've ever seen him on camera, was Scott Dixon qualifying 20th, and just choosing his words like a politician or a diplomat, probably in a foreign country, be a better way of doing that. How irritated he was with the screw ups that went on within the crew. Either one of you have a comment on that? Paul, you heard that his comments or not?
No, I haven't, but I don't get it all. Bob probably does.
Well, I heard the comments. I think the one part that surprised me the most, they finally went to red tires and didn't make a change on the wing. I mean, that's just automatic. You put on the red tires and you crank in a couple of turns of wing. So I don't know what was going on there. Maybe they can blame it on the Alex Palou situation. Who knows? But it was very uncharacteristic of Ganassi's team overall, and Scott Dixon's in particular. They seem to always be on top of everything.
You're right, Bob. And there's something else that is becoming more and more interesting to me, and that is the strategies that are being played out with the tires themselves, of teams being very careful to hold back whatever is, well, more often than not, reds. So they have a sufficient number for the race that are also in good shape. And so kind of watching that, well, he came in, why didn't he take that last lap in qualifying? Probably because he didn't want to run the tires.
Yeah, that's true.
That's really become an interesting strategy. I really enjoy watching that.
Mm-hmm.
It has.
Yeah.
Yes, it has.
Mentioning Herta dominating the race, he led 17 laps early on and then drops out. But his teammate in his final year with Andretti ended a 3-year drought. And salute to our 2016 Indy 500 winner. It's great to see Alex win again. What's your thoughts on how he masterfully drove that race? And he kind of predicted it. He indicated, it was qualifying that was their Achilles heel, and starting second to Rosenqvist, it was more than just talk. He proved it. So we're happy for that event. Comment on his win. Paul, first we'll start with you.
Well, at a lot of races, a driver will come up to you and say, I've got this one. I've got the car and everything. And quite often they're right about it. I remember Johnny Rutherford saying that about the 1980 race. He said, I've got this thing, no problem. And I think that's kind of the Rossi thing too, is he knew that if the chips fell right, that he definitely had the car to win. His only question would be, where did Colton end up? And when Colton was gone, I mean, it's Rossi's all the way, and he ran away. Bless you.
No, thank you, Bob.
Yeah, I think most people were glad to see Rossi win. It's been a while since he won. Very popular driver. And I think a thing that I noticed too, and again, I'm not throwing this on in Palou's lap, but the whole situation of Rossi leaving Andretti is so much different than what appears to be happening at Ganassi. Rossi's still competitive every week. He hasn't won, but he's been very competitive every week, has a great relationship with the team. And he made a comment over the weekend. It was, there was no hard feelings with Michael or anyone else on the team. It was almost like an amicable divorce, I suppose. No bridges burned. So it really struck me what was going on in the Andretti team with Rossi as compared to what was going on in the Ganassi team with Palou.
So the biggest story to me out of this IndyCar race was who finished second. And the young 21-year-old Dane driver, Christian Lundgaard, finished second. Started sixth, finished second. It was certainly a rebound for Team Rahal.
Oh, yeah.
Graham Rahal finished seventh. And it's nice to see them emerge as a potential front runner as well. And that's if Ilott and Kirkwood were on the radar list, this certainly put him on that as well. So you got those
two. He deserves that spotlight. I mean, it was an incredible drive. He's, what, just 21 recently over the weekend?
Turned it, yeah.
Yeah, so he's one of the group you've already mentioned, Denny, that are they're in there and they're coming hard.
Yeah.
Well, Kirkwood was the glittery little trinket there for a while, but Lucas and Ilott and Lundgaard just every bit his equal now and everything. It just bodes well for IndyCar with the existing drivers there as well. We'll give you the point rundown after that. We have a new point leader, as we mentioned earlier. Will Power now leads with 431 points. Erickson's 8 behind at 422. Newgarden, because he was able to run, is at 399. Dixon, because, and I can see why he's half irritated on that, finish now has 393. Award, who spun on the opening lap, hurt his chances, is 5th at 385. Pillow at 379. And that dilemma there is he's still in the hunt. McLaughlin at 7th at 350. Rossi now with the win goes to 8th at 318. Rosenqvist at 299, and Herta easily should be leading the series, is at 10th at 285. The other thing from my perspective that was kind of fun was Connor Daly's comment on DeFrancesco's driving during the race. Did either one of you hear that comment?
I believe he did not regard him highly. And that's the way I would say it. The word idiot, I think, got in there. Yeah.
And that he should be kind of kicked out of IndyCar or something.
Yeah, but you know, as a television commentator, we die for that. That's so good. All reporters like, now I got a story. Thank you very much.
No, we made a story out of it and everything.
Yeah.
But the greater talk, you're starting to hear that his ride may not be all that secure now for 2023.
I hope it is. He's such a good kid.
But you know, let's look just briefly at what was Andretti's team. Have Herta, he had James Hinchcliffe, he had Brian Hunter-Reay, and Marco was part of it as well, and then Rossi. And that, for in its totality, as a cross sponsor and everything, benefited a lot of sponsors. But you lose Rossi for a Kirkwood, and he may be a superstar, but he's not Alexander Rossi now. You lose James Hinchcliffe, the DeFrancesco, and he may be very good too, but he didn't have the charisma, and Hinchcliffe's the former pole winner at Indy. And you lose Ryan Hunter-Reay. I don't think Andretti across the board has the name star power that the other teams have, particularly how McLaren is going to be with Rossi and Award and potentially Pillow. So that might be something Michael is concerned about too, and that's one of the reasons that might surface a shuffle of the thing. You see any changes at Andretti race team, either one of you?
Well, I don't.
No.
I mean, their new lineup is a pretty solid lineup.
Yeah.
So they're definitely in the game with the new team. That I think the only question, and I'm not really good doing arithmetic on the air or anywhere else for that matter, but I think that one of the cars at Andretti might be on the edge of not getting into the winner's circle, which is, the engine supply thing and everything. I think that tilted a little bit this weekend, and I'd hate to see that happen.
Right. No, I think Andretti is going to have a struggle. I mean, who heard of Colton Herta?
He's got, that's
a couple 3 years ago. You never, when Colton Herta came onto the team, most people said, well, Pato O'Ward's going to be better than he is.
Mhm.
Well, it's turned out they're both pretty well equal. So I think Kirkwood is going to do just fine at Andretti. All things considered, I mean, Andretti has to supply some good cars as well. Here recently, maybe since Indianapolis, they've had some pretty good runs, but they've had some tough runs prior to Indianapolis, including Indianapolis as well. Part of it's going to depend on the car, but no, I think with Colton Hurd as the lead and the Kirkwood coming in, and they'll have a strong team.
Rossi said something very interesting this weekend about Herta and his Formula One test. He said that, that's not a fully tuned car. It's an older car and everything. He said he was actually running with the times that would be appropriate for an existing Formula One driver in a lesser car. And he said they have no choice. They were going to have to grab him.
Yeah.
So who will do that? And when that happens?
Right, exactly. Of course, we got Grosjean is still going to be with the team as well. And
yes,
he's kind of had a tough year, but part of that's, just things happen.
Yeah, but you're hearing too.
But he has a lot of talent, and he's a very popular driver. And that's what sponsors like.
But you're hearing too that they're potentially looking at a performance clause in his contract too. That's one of the things that's going around. But yes, I agree. Grosjean adds to the uniqueness of Andretti. Maybe even you ever see Marco returning full time to the Indy series?
I don't.
I don't see that. You're right.
I don't either. It'd be nice if he did for IndyCar. If he did.
Yeah, but he looked pretty good on the broadcast with wandering around the pits with his left arm in a sling or in a cast. Yeah, I admit it. I really like him. He's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I can't tell you about he and Franchitti on an airplane coming back from X Games, but they were across the aisle and wonderfully entertaining. That's all I'm going to say.
That's all you can say.
Yeah, that's it.
Well,
they did have a problem until the flight attendant sent the girl back to her seat and coach. I got nothing else.
Okay. Well, they build this as the crossover weekend, and NASCAR had their Cup race on the road course, second year for that.
Yeah.
They're calling it the Verizon 200 now, and a California driver named Tyler Reddick won, and it became a kind of a crash fest going in that corner more than one time. Maybe that becomes the more ideal for putting on a show venue than the oval. What are you hearing about how the fans, one, like the Brickyard 400 going to this format, and two, how did it translate as far as crowds this year compared to the Brickyard, and also this year compared to last year for this?
Bob, I think you're better with that one.
Well, I've heard what I've heard, and I don't know the exact numbers, but attendance this year for the Cup race was better than it had been for the past several years, and certainly in the last years of the oval. But I've long said that Winston, the Cup cars, I started to call them Winston Cup, but the Cup cars
You just showed your age, guys.
On the road courses are, for the most part, more entertaining than they are on the oval. And it's because of the structure of the cars. They can rub, rubbing is racing, I guess, but they can rub and push and beat on each other where you can't do it as well in an Indy car, for instance, or some of the other series. So I think it's highly entertaining. I think a lot of people would like to see it back on the oval, but with some respectable attendance. Not sure what the future might hold there. I do know Roger Penske was going to make some comments about the oval and possibly has made those already. I haven't seen them yet. So I don't know if it's what he's going to say, about the future of the oval and NASCAR.
Seems to me the fans voted with their attendance on that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And the rating.
And why 200? Is it hard to go 400 miles on that type of a course, or 300, or why was that 200 number picked? Either one of you know that?
No,
I don't really know.
Made for television, maybe.
I would say TV had, in their time slots, had something to say about it. Yes.
Well, the
half the 400, half
the
the
cool-
400, who knows?
The cool thing I thought, and it really could have been a dilemma for them, was Ross Chastain on that last restart cuts through the access road and could have very well, if he had not slowed down to let Reddick taken the lead, and he was running second and wasn't able to catch him. But had he won the race, and by the way, he got moved back down to 27th spot from second place. But imagine the problem had he won the race and they taken it away after what happened at Pocono.
Yeah.
And everything. But I thought that was pretty smart, and I don't know if it was necessarily in the rule books that he couldn't do that. That was, and I think a few others thought they may try that as well, but he certainly knew the carnage that might. In fact, they really got by less damage than what could have happened on that last thing. So
I think part of the thing there is, and again, kudos to Speedway. The way they have the runoff set for that, yeah, you can get through there pretty quick, but you're not carrying a lot of momentum onto the track when you get back on the track. So I think that they've built that at that turn at the road course turn 1 in a way that is probably pretty acceptable.
Yeah.
And we're going to kind of conclude with last year's winner of the Cup race, AJ Allmendinger, won the Infinity race the day before, and continues to show his mastery in stock cars on road courses. He did have a kind of a scary moment. He collapsed after the race was over. He apparently his cool suit was not functioning, and
Right.
nor was his drink mechanism. But Allmendinger very easily could have been an IndyCar driver. He was one of the hottest commodities back in 2006. Bob, you want to tell how many races he won? And
Yeah, well, we had to do some, I'm not exactly Donald Davison here, but we had to do some scrambling prior to the show to verify some of the numbers, but he was pretty spectacular. He came up through the Red Bull program and CART in 2006, won 5 races, 3 of those consecutively. So he definitely had the talent to be, and proved that to be in open wheel racing, IndyCar racing. Been interesting to see him stay. Of course, he's named after AJ Foyt. That's where he gets the name AJ. But I don't know that his plan was ever to run IndyCars full time. I don't know one way or the other. For instance, Ryan Newman, he was an excellent open wheel driver as well. But his plan was always to go to NASCAR to run stock cars. I'm not sure about AJ, but just a better offer that came along, or just he wanted a new direction in his career or whatever. I don't know why he ended up in stock cars rather than Indy cars, but he definitely has the talent to run Indy cars.
Well, in 2013, he drove a Penske car his one and only time at Indy, and came very close to winning it. He had seat belt or a shoulder harness or something became loose, and they had to correct that. But if not led the race, challenged for the lead, and could very well won the 2013 race. He was a little less impressive in what you thought he would have been more impressive in a Penske car on a road circuit. And he didn't dominate that. And also maybe that's one of the reasons Penske didn't ink him for the following season. But would be nice to see Allmendinger return and run Indy another time or two. Maybe Jimmy Johnson's success there might rekindle him coming back.
Well, I had a friend that ran into him and asked him or made a comment to AJ about wish he could be back in Indy cars. And AJ told his friend, and it wasn't anything official, just a conversation, said, no, I've been there and done that, and the money's better where I'm at. So that has a lot to do with it.
That helps a lot of them with that decision. I mean, his whole background, karting, you know, where he's champion and the small formulas, you would think that he would stay as an Indy guy. Right. But a number of drivers, I think, have made the decision to be in NASCAR, one, because the money works out better for them. And secondly, a lot of them feel that NASCAR is a lot safer to drive. So that combination, I think, pulls a lot of them to be thinking seriously about NASCAR.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's like it or not. I mean, NASCAR attendance numbers, TV numbers are down, but they're still the big kahuna, you know, when it comes to American auto racing. NASCAR still leads everything else. So a lot of recognition gained there and they race every weekend. You know, that's one thing about these guys. They've won a race. They love to race. And that's why you see guys like Kyle Larson, even Tony Stewart in his heyday. If he wasn't running NASCAR, if they happened to have an off weekend or middle of the week, he'd run a sprint car race somewhere or a midget race, whatever. Most of those guys just really love to race. And if you can do that and make money doing it, why not?
Well, final thoughts on this weekend. First of all, Mr. Page, how'd you enjoy the crossover?
I enjoyed everything about this weekend, including watching the Formula One. What it allowed Sally and I to do is to literally watch television all day Saturday and all day Sunday. And that's a perfect weekend.
Well, and Bob, your take on this crossover weekend?
Well, I thought it was a great one. And I thought in some concluding thoughts there, if you notice, I got a little different background up there now. It's all about Paul Page. And I thought this is pretty neat. He has a speaking engagement coming up Friday. Isn't that right, Paul?
Yeah, that's correct. At Savoy Museum. And they put that over the doors, the entrance to the theater section. And then they just sent it to me today. And it's like, wow. I don't think I've ever had that before. That's really cool. They're pretty serious. I may have to be good.
Well, here's a good way to start if you're not quite sure how to open your speech. Start out 7 years ago. That'll get their attention.
But I thought that was quite a billing and quite an honor.
Yeah, that was very nice.
Congratulations.
And a complete surprise.
Oh, that's great on that. And this coming next week, we'll be talking about what I think is going to be one of the top IndyCar venues in the future. And they go through the streets of Nashville. What can we expect this year in Nashville besides just a fun weekend in that great city?
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I'm just saying relative to the course, they've made some minor changes in it that I think will help. Marking apexes as an example, which was a bit of a problem last year. But all new circuits learn, and I think it's going to be a super race. And we know that over on Broadway, it's going to be a super party. And Nashville is just such a cool city, so it's going to be neat.
It's
as
incredible.
Al would say.
It's incredible. You know, if you love music, Nashville, I'll tell you what, it's the place to go. Paul mentioned Broadway. You can go up and down Broadway and there's music everywhere. And you go
And then
into
there's the
one of the
Ryman.
clubs or bars, and there's bands playing, and most of them are multi-story. You go on every floor and there's a different band playing. It's incredible, just a perfect fit, I think, for an IndyCar race.
And then
Denny, there's the Ryman Auditorium, the home of the Grand Ole Opry. Have you ever
Yep.
been there?
yes, I have.
It's
And,
cool, isn't it?
It is, and it was in December, so they had a couple of Christmas trees on stage, and I really like the city of Nashville. I've had the opportunity to be down there
Here's
3 or 4 times, and I'll put in a plug for just how great the Opryland Hotel is at Christmas season.
Yeah.
I just love it. If you're into an overdue of Christmas, they topped the list there. In fact, it was so good that I think one year Bob Hope did his Christmas show from there. So it's a great city.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled, and I'm sure Josef Newgargen, who is from Nashville, has to be pleased with that. And
Here's my Ryman Auditorium story real quickly. I was there as a baby because my mother was a huge Hank Williams Sr. fan. And he started playing at the Ryman Auditorium. She heard about it and they made the trip. And she got his autograph, which I still have
wow.
on a
Wow.
Grand Ole Opry program.
Hang on to that.
Would you sing us a Hank Williams song?
No,
Wouldn't do
that's
You're cheating hard or something like that.
If you guys start singing that, I'm going to start singing "I Don't Think Hank Done It This Way."
Yes, that's right.
Well, we will be reporting on what happened in Nashville next week. It's just been a very interesting week, and congratulations to Roger Penske for pulling off this beautiful doubleheader at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and for IMSA deciding to come there and be a added venue for the Speedway next year. So from Denny Miller and our Speedway Insiders Paul Page and Bob Gates, we wish you Godspeed, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everyone.